don't think it can happen to you.
The hit-and-run chase in California, a motorcycle rider witnessing a driver slam into several cars and then speeding away.
It can happen to you within seconds, a blink of an eye.
Tonight about the man suspected of killing a woman in a hit-and-run and his plan to evade justice.
When you take your eyes off the road for just seconds, when you're driving your car, oh, yes, it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass.
New at 10, a hit and run caught on video, and now a teenager and his family are looking for the driver who took off.
He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
All right, welcome. Welcome to another show of DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show, you can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and, of course, on Facebook, DistractedDB. And you can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just use the keyword DistractedDB, and you can get all the archive shows from there. It doesn't really matter. The current ones, the ones that are coming up soon. Okay. So we are about to enter the 100 days of summer. And quite honestly, I'm hoping this year we actually make it. Because right now, every day on the news, there's always hit and run, DUIs, so on and so forth. A lot of crazy stuff going on. And I did something today that I preached about. I did something today that, quite honestly, it scared the bejesus out of me. I did something, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I just wanted to let everybody know that, I guess if you experience what I'm talking about, and you have experienced it yourself, you can IM me, DM me, and we can talk about it. But I got to tell you that it is a very scary situation. And this is like the first time that I have done this, probably since probably my mid-20s, maybe. The first time. But let me get it off the table right now. Let me put it out there on the table right now, I should say. It's not being a drunk driver. I didn't do that. Nope. Didn't do that. But I did something last night, and I'll explain a little bit later on within the show. But a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. More DUIs, hit and runs, and we got some stories about that. Also, too, I have a follow-up. I have more evidence or more disturbing news about a show that I did way back on, well, not way back, May 7th. I brought it to you guys, but it happened like a day or two prior. How many people remember that young couple that got married and within about an hour or two after the I-do's, the bride was killed by a hit-and-run driver? Yes. I'm following up on a story I told you I'm going to follow up because I knew that there had to be more stuff with this lady that was the perpetrator. We'll get into that in just a little bit. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Again, I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, and of course Facebook, DistractedDB, and just follow along and use the keyword DistractedDB. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Wake up and text. text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam! Ran right into the side of the saloon.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, DistractedDB. All you got to use is the keyword DistractedDB to follow and get all my archive shows. And how do you find those? iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just use the keyword DistractedDB, as I said. Okay, so here, summertime is about to be honest. Some places hotter than others, so they feel like it's summertime already. And what are we dealing with when it comes to this time of year? A lot of graduations, a lot of stuff like that. We've had graduations. Some graduates didn't make it to their graduation. Some attended their graduation, and shortly after, they had ended up losing their life because of a DUI, hit and run, something related to that. Parents, I know you're out there, you're listening to this podcast show. Please, please encourage your kids, if they're going to go out, please get an Uber, get Lyft, get something. Just do not drink and drive. And it is a sad thing when they just graduate and just like that, like they say in my opening, like Gina mentions all the time, it's a blink of an eye and your life could be gone. It's just that easy. We had an actor who just recently died. I forgot his name just now, and I feel bad about that because I wasn't really thinking about it until just now. Up in Pennsylvania, riding his motorcycle, boom, gone. And I feel bad that I don't have that actor's name. I'm kicking myself in the head for that, but that's me. It just popped in my head. And I'll tell you why I'm a little kind of disshuffled here in just a little bit. I'm a little bit tired, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. But here's a story that I got from KFI, and this happened, I guess, a couple days ago. And again, this story comes from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles, where a woman, a mother of 3, lost her life because of a DUI driver swerving and ended up crashing into her at 6:30 p.m. At freaking 6:30 p.m. Nobody, happy hour is not even over yet, and this guy's totally wasted. Here is the story from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
KTLA 5's Shelby Nelson is live in Hesperia with the latest. Shelby?
Micah and B, this is a tragedy that Lisette Villasenor's family says could have been prevented. They say she was traveling along Highway 395 right behind me with 2 of her 3 kids inside her vehicle when suddenly there was that alleged drunk driver swerving in and out of lanes before hitting her car head on.
Her kids her husband, her home, her family was everything to her.
A Hesperia mom's life cut short after being hit by an alleged drunk driver. 36-year-old Lisette Villasenor and 2 of her 3 kids were inside her Prius driving along Highway 395 north of Poplar Street in Hesperia. That's when police say the driver of a Chevy Tahoe, 41-year-old Jose Vargas, crossed into oncoming traffic, hitting them.
Everyone was trapped in that car, so they had to pull off a piece of the car to get them out.
Lisette's sister-in-law, Crystal Giron, says she had just talked to her that morning on May 11th. The crash happening at around 6:30 that evening. Lisette had just dropped her son off at soccer practice and was driving her 12-year-old daughter, Ashley, to cheer tryouts. Her youngest, 6-year-old Daniel, was also in the car. Giron says that her sister-in-law died on impact, but it's what Ashley did that may have saved her little brother's life.
In a second, she's like, no, I have to call 911. I have to save my little brother's life and my mom.
A traumatic experience that left Daniel hospitalized with a head injury. About 5 days later, he was finally discharged with these photos from a GoFundMe for the family showing his progress.
Is he trying to get away?
A witness captured this video of the aftermath. The driver of the other vehicle has been charged with murder, and this wasn't his first time getting a DUI. According to the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office, he has prior DUI convictions in San Diego, Orange, and San Bernardino counties, and was given what is called the Watson advisement for at least 2 of them.
It states that if you continue this behavior now knowing that it's deadly and it could cause injury or death, and you continue this behavior and it does result in the loss of life, you may be charged with murder.
Lisette's family is now fighting for justice and for harsher penalties when it comes to drunk driving, so this doesn't happen again.
It should not take the death of someone's life for a DUI arrest to be taken seriously.
That suspected drunk driver pled not guilty to the charges in court last Monday. He is going to be due back in court at the end of the month. Reporting live in Hesperia, I'm Shelby Nelson, KTLA 5 News.
All right, and again, that story comes from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. How can anybody do what he did and plead not guilty? Is it for reason of insanity? Is it reason for stupidity? Because that's what it would be, stupidity. And I think what happened to happen when DMV gives their people their driver's test and they end up passing the test, they need to put a freaking big sticker on their license. Do not drink and drive. Or you will be paying the ultimate price. Automatically, your first DUI, you should be locked up in jail for a week. Just automatically. Just make it simple. Shake them up. Because that person that they killed isn't going to wake up. They're gone forever. A life and a family has totally been destroyed, and yet people are not getting it. And I just don't understand. And it scares me when and this is also a little bit about what I'm going to talk about toward the end of the show. What I did that scared me. And we'll get into that. But the whole thing, the whole premise of the law is to protect the innocent. And this guy's pleading not guilty? Why? It just, okay, if you plead not guilty, then you are found guilty, it should be you're locked up for a month automatically, just no matter what. Just plead guilty. You do like 2 weeks, doing something stupid, but you kill somebody in that process. Now we're going down a different road. We're taking a different avenue. We're going to take a different approach on this. And that's what needs to happen. But yet, time and time again, it doesn't happen that way. And for the love of God, I have no idea why. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Okay, when we come back, a lady that killed somebody in a deadly crash in March finds out her fate a couple days ago. I got the story. We'll be back right after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. There's no way you can hide it. If you drive drunk, they're gonna find you. So stop kidding yourself. Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Sir, have you been drinking this evening?
Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
They will catch you and arrest you. Drive sober or get pulled over.
All right, welcome to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, DistractedDB. And you can check out all the archive shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. Here's a story about a young lady, 26 years old, back in March. And I think I did a story on this one. I don't remember. I'm going back and checking my archives. But she did something, and now she's finding out a couple of days ago, or she found out a couple of days ago, what the price that she has to pay. And when it comes to this kind of stuff, expect it. It's coming. It might take a little bit of time. They wanted to make sure they had everything together. And now it happened. A woman who was charged in a deadly crash, or who committed a deadly crash, DUI crash, in March, was sentenced just the other day. She found out her fate. Okay? Now that we know that. I know it's a DUI. She got manslaughter, one dead, one other person hurt. Her blood alcohol was double from what Florida keeps it in their regulations, which is kind of weird that she's now finding out the fate now. But justice will come around. And now that I got the story, this is from WPLG Local 10, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
A woman has been arrested and charged with DUI manslaughter for a deadly crash that killed a woman. And Local 10's Hatzel Vela is live with this developing story. Hatzel.
Calvin, remember, this is a case that dates back to March, and so now we're learning significant new information, not just about what happened here, but about the suspect who saw a judge today and remains in jail.
One pedestrian was killed, the other one was seriously injured.
She went before a judge accused of driving drunk, striking a couple, killing the wife. This is Brianna Russell, now facing a slew of charges, including DUI manslaughter, vehicular homicide, and reckless driving.
The defendant had a blood alcohol level a little more than 1 hour after the crash of 0.197.
The legal limit in Florida is 0.08, means it was more than double. And tonight we learned Russell and the passenger in her car had been drinking and went to several bars in Fort Lauderdale prior to the deadly crash. Let's take you back to early March of this year. This happens here at the intersection of Oakland Park Boulevard and University Drive in Sunrise. Security cameras outside the car wash cafe captured when a silver Toyota Corolla comes to a stop. It's still dark, around 5:30 in the morning. The video is a bit grainy, but you can see what appears to be the driver getting out of the car and walking over to check on things. Local 10 cameras captured the aftermath, a utility pole on the ground, a body on the roadway, that damaged Corolla with airbags deployed. Tonight, more about the woman police say is responsible.
Brianna is a 26-year-old individual. She graduated from University of Central Florida with a bachelor's degree.
And so the judge set bond at $120,000, told her that she cannot drive. She also has to wear an ankle monitoring device. She remains tonight here in jail. But now reporting live from Fort Lauderdale, I'm Hatzel Vela, Local 10 News.
Okay. All right, and I appreciate WPLG Local 10 News for allowing me to use the sound. Yeah, a bond of $120,000. She has to wear a monitoring device. She's not allowed to drive anymore for a while. And this is not a woman that is stupid. This is not a woman that is stupid at all. She graduated from Central Florida, and you already heard she's a bachelor's degree, so she's not stupid. But yet, sometimes people just become stupid when they get behind the wheel after they've been drinking. This is why they have Uber. This is why they have Lyft. This is why they have cabs. This is why they have phones. Call your mom, call your dad, call your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, niece and nephew. I don't really care who you call, but just call somebody, because if not, you end up like this. And now she's going to be in jail for a long period of time. And, it's very disheartening when they find out stuff like that. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. All right, when we come back, I have a very quick story. It's a follow-up, if you will. And I remember doing this story back in May, but it happened like a week or two prior. But May 7th was the day that I talked about it, and I said I'm going to follow up on it. I did. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and, of course, on Facebook, DistractedDB. And you can get the archive shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just use the keyword DistractedDB. Here's a story, is a follow-up in regards to a story that we did back on May 7th. A young couple just got married. Within about 2.5 hours, 3 hours, the bride is dead because she was hit by a drunk driver. And I believe her name is Jamie Cronin. Okay, I don't want to mess it up, so I'm not going to do that. But I know her first name is Jamie. And she had several different violations, and she... just say she kind of fibbed up a little bit to the police officers. And they did a more investigation where she said, I only drank this much and I drank this. Come to find out, whoa, it's a whole lot more than what she said. And of course, this story comes from WBTV News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
WBTV on your side, digging deeper into this woman's past. Jamie Komorowski is accused of driving drunk, hitting a Charlotte couple just hours after they were married in Folly Beach, South Carolina.
We first told you about this story last night. The bride, Samantha Miller, who had just said her vows to become Samantha Hutchinson, died. And tonight, her husband, Eric, is still in the hospital.
Our Nikki Hauser joins us now live after uncovering new court documents detailing what happened that night.
Nikki, the driver told police she had a beer and some tequila before the crash.
Yeah, Molly and Jamie, you guys are exactly right. And these are the police records from that night. And they say not only that she has official charges like DUI and reckless homicide, but they also spell out how police say she smelled like alcohol. She couldn't stand on her own, and she also refused a sobriety test.
And I never thought it would happen to us.
For Sam Hutchinson's family, the feeling is beyond shock and hurt.
So she basically just rammed my child.
After losing Sam, a daughter, a sister, and a beautiful new bride because of an accused drunk driver, her mother and sister say life will never be the same.
That person made a careless mistake.
This driver, Charleston police identify as 25-year-old Jamie Komorowski, was driving a Toyota Camry at least double the speed limit Friday before ramming into the couple and two other wedding guests who were riding in a golf cart. In a GoFundMe started by his family, you can see the groom, Eric's, injuries. Eric's mother says her son-in-law and grandson were also injured in the accident. Not only do Horry County public records show that Komorowski had previous speeding and traffic violations, but new details from that wedding night in an affidavit show that police say Komorowski was drinking and seemed to be impaired. Take a look here. Police on the scene that night asked Komorowski how much she had to drink. Komorowski told them 1 beer and a drink with tequila, adding on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is sober and 10 is most impaired, she felt she was an 8. Digging into her driving history, I also found at least 3 speeding violations since 2018, and another traffic violation for failing to use a turn signal only months before this happened. In this case, she was charged with 3 counts of felony DUI and reckless vehicular homicide. But family says no charges can make up for the loss of someone like Sam.
And it's not a mistake. It is a life-changing event.
Absolutely. Now, Komorowski is set to appear for the first time in court in Charleston in mid-June. And as we know, in the meantime, families on both sides, the bride and the groom, are just absolutely crushed over this. I've been talking to Eric's brother, who's still in the hospital. He says he'd like to talk to us, but of course, with all these overwhelming circumstances, he's just trying to heal his family physically and emotionally right now. He does say he appreciates everybody's support thus far. Molly and Jamie?
We are thinking of both families tonight. Nikki Hauser live tonight. Thank you.
All right, and again, that story comes from WBTV News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. So I guess I have to do another follow-up in this mid-June, which is right about now. So hopefully I get some more tidbits about that. But now let's talk about what made me shake myself to the core. Okay, I've always talked to you guys about being a safe driver. Do not be a distracted driver. Don't do anything crazy. I think for the first time since in my mid-20s, I've been working quite a bit, and I put in a couple extra hours at work, and then I came home, and then I found out that somebody wasn't coming into work. So I went to sleep real fast for a couple of hours, and I woke up, and I ended up leaving at like 1:30 or so in the morning, and I got to my office by around 3 in the morning. That I felt fine with. Yeah, I got there and I did my work and stuff, and then like probably around 6:30 in the morning, I ended up leaving and coming home. On my way home, though, it was probably about halfway through my driving to home, I just felt so tired, and I found myself dozing off. The first time in a long time, and quite honestly, it scared me to death. I had to pull off on the side of the road, and I stopped off at a breakfast place just to get an iced drink of water or a juice that I had. And it felt so good to just stop and do that. But for that 5-6 minutes that I was trying to find a place to go, yeah, it really tore me up a little bit, and I got so afraid of what was about to happen. And I'm glad that I stopped and pulled off. So if you're listening, you feel sleepy, pull off on the side of the road, stop off at a burger joint, a McDonald's, or someplace like that, and just get something to drink. Wait a few minutes, shake out the rustiness, and get back to it. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Thank you all for listening. Next week, I'll have some stats for you on how many places have been picking up my show. And let's just say the gender and the ages of my show. You'll be interested, and I was shocked to find out what I was looking at. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Until next week, please be safe.